Okay, so we're in the Maimer Beyom ashtei, the last chapter, Yud Gimel. So the whole Maimer until now, the Rebbe was talking about the Maila of Ratzon, the Maila of when a Yid serves the Eibishter with his entire will, with his entire desire. We described how a person can transform himself where he wants nothing else in the world. He doesn't want any of the Gashmis. He doesn't want any of the Ruchnias. He wants only the Eibishter himself. And that, until now, was the ultimate level that we were discussing of a person serving the Eibishter, where, first of all, he's interested solely and exclusively in the Eibishter. And second of all, even in the Eibishter, what's he interested in? He's not interested in Gan Eden. He's not interested in Olam Haba. He's interested only in the Eibishter himself. However, in Yud Aleph, the Rebbe introduced something that told us it's actually there's something missing from the picture. That is actually not the greatest level of serving the Eibishter. Why is it not the greatest level of serving the Eibishter? So the Rebbe explains that. Let's go back to what we described in Ratzon. We described what's the opposite of Ratzon. What's somebody who serves the Eibishter not with Ratzon, but with a lower faculty of himself. So, for example, we had the story of the servants who served the king only with their maisa, only with their action. They have no interest in serving the king. They don't understand or appreciate the greatness of the king. They're slaves and they have no choice. And if they're not going to serve the king, then they're going to get punished, and even corporal punishment. So because of that, so they stand behind the mill, and they turn the wheel. They serve the Eibishter merely with their maisa, merely with their action, but their heart isn't into it, their mind isn't into it, and more importantly, their desire isn't into it. What they want is they want to break free, run away, and do what they want. They have no interest in serving the king. And we contrast that with serving the king with your full ratzon, where the person is fully into it. His passion and his soul is into this idea that he's a servant of the king and he's serving the king. However, the problem over here is not that it's not such a high level. It's not a very high level of serving the king. But the question is, does that touch the king himself? Or let's go back now to the Eibishter or to the neshama of a yid. Does the ratzon, does the will of a person fully touch the essence of the person? Or is it only an expression of what the person wants? And we'll use a mashal. If we picture a person who comes across a poor family, and he's a wealthy person, he comes across, he sees a poor family, he sees the children with torn clothing, and for food they have up as bread and water, and they're living in a small apartment with no furnishings. They use the table is used as a bed at night, and another bench is used as another bed, and he sees poverty that's hard to imagine, it's hard to describe. And furthermore, he sees that the family members are of the finest character. They don't complain about their lot in life. They're not bitter. They don't think that they deserve more. They accept their lot in life and what the Eibishter gave them with happiness. And this person sees both the poverty and the refined character of the family members, that he's awakened with a tremendous ratzon, a tremendous desire that he wants to help this family. They have nothing, and he could help them. And he's filled with a passion that he wants to help this family. And when he's going to sleep, he's thinking about it, and he's talking about it when he meets people. It's just on his mind. It takes him over entirely. This will, this passion that he has, this ratzon to help this family. And then when he's done, so he sits down and he starts making a cheshbon. Now he has to start thinking about it. How could he help them? He has to take into consideration how much money does the family need. He doesn't want to just give them money, and then the money's going to run out. And again, they're going to find themselves in a situation where they don't have what they need. So he starts thinking, what's the father? What kind of, line of business can he get into? Can he maybe make a partnership with him, help him start up a business and invest money and help him with connections and different ways that he could help him. And slowly but surely, he begins formulating a plan in his mind. And then he decides, in his heart, he feels in his gut, I'm going to do this. And he goes through the motions. He actually he approaches the father and he asks him for a meeting. And he goes through describing this business partnership that he wants to make with him. And, and then you have to do the work to actually make the business, to actually create it. And then this person doesn't have business experience. So he has to go through a whole bunch of, hours of advising him and consulting him and putting him in touch with people. There's a whole bunch of doing. Now the question is, which one of these two parts of the story is connected to the essence of the person? Is Ratzon, when he was all excited and he was filled with passion and he was literally jumping off the ground and pacing back and forth, and it didn't get out of his mind? Or when the person calls him, 3 months in, and he calls him and he says, listen, we got a shipment of goods, and if it's not good and whatever, what should I do with it? I need a few minutes of your time. So he gives him a few minutes of your time. Which one is closer to the essence of the person? And the answer is, the question is, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the expression of the person's soul? Or are we talking about the essence of the person's soul? If we're talking about the expression of the person's soul, where can the person's soul be expressed more? The answer is in his ratzon, in his will. Over there, he could become completely taken over with this that his soul wants. In the action, in doing things, and in meeting with a person and taking care of a phone call, making a connection from here to there, that's not a good way of expressing the soul. It's a very low keli, it's a very low vessel. The soul can't really be expressed through that. It's in the sphere of action. It's in the sphere of maisa. However, what's more important to the person? His excitement and his passion, or that this person should actually be helped? What is the essence of the person, of this wealthy person? What does his essence really want? He wants to express his desire and his passion to help the person, or he wants the person to actually be helped? The answer is that he wants the person to actually be helped. And if he was overcome with a passion and a desire to help the person, and he continued with it for a week or two, and he didn't do anything about it, then in his essence, he's going to feel a big hole. Because here was something that he really wanted to do, but he didn't do it. So it's dafka in the action, in the sitting down for a simple meeting, taking care of small nitty-gritty problems, figuring out a game plan of what kind of a business to make, and all of the simple, low-level things that he does, dafka over there, the essence of the person's soul is touched. That's where the essence of the person's soul is connected to. In Ratzon, the person's essence is not connected to it. It expresses his essence, but it's not connected to it. And that's why the Rebbe says that even though in the beginning of the Maimer, we learned the tremendous mila that a person can reach when his entire Ratzon, he has no other thing in the world that he's interested in. His only interest in the world is in the Eibishter and the Eibishter himself. Nevertheless, there's still much more to go to. Because if we are talking about connecting to the Eibishter on the levels where the Eibishter is expressed in this thing or that other or the other thing, then Ratzon is taka very high. But if we're talking about the essence of the Eibishter is dafka when the mitzvah is done. The Maisa, when you take the penny, pick it up and put it in the pushka, that's where the essence of the Eibishter is connected. When you open the Sefer and learn the Torah, when you go to the shul and daven with the minyan, that's where the essence of the Eibishter is created, is touched. That's where you reach the essence of the Eibishter. So it turns out that we have two opposite things. On the one hand, if we're going to talk about in madregas, what's a higher madrega? Who has reached a higher level? Who is a person that we look at and we say that this is a person who I'm amazed by and I wish I could reach his level? It's the person who managed to transform himself where his only interest is in the Eibishter and the Eibishter alone. He's not interested, not in money, not in COVID, not in the things that his heart feels that it wants. He's not interested in nothing, only in the Eibishter. This is a person who's a big Baal Madrega. But where can we touch the essence of the Eibishter? And where can the essence of our soul be revealed? Dafka in the simple action. And this idea that it's actually the simple action, the Maisa B'Poel, that touches the essence of the Eibishter is a koch that runs through all of the Rebbe's Ma'amorim. Not all, but much of the Rebbe's Torah. It's the Rebbe's koch that if you're going to talk about Giluim, if you're going to talk about high madregas, so in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, the Yidden were on a much higher madrega. Even the generation of our grandparents, of our parents, of our grandparents, on a much higher madrega. The generation of the Alter Rebbe, those were Yidden. It's described that when Beyom Kletzker used to read in the Torah, Timcha Zecher Amalek, his face would turn into a flaming fire with a burning hatred towards Amalek. This is a madrega. This is not anything that any of us can even understand or approach. But if you're talking about the essence of the Eibishter, then that's dafka in Maisa, that's dafka in the mitzvahs. And now in our generation, it's not a mistake that Rebbe teaches in this Torah. It's not a mistake that we no longer have such a connection to high madregas. that we're stuck. The Frierdiker Rebbe decries the humul tumul of the city, that once in the village people were able to sit down, take their time, and go through, thinking about their Avodas Hashem, where they're holding in life, what they're supposed to be doing. Now in the city, the Frierdiker Rebbe says that even the ear of the city, even if a person were to close the windows and draw the shades, and he wouldn't get any noise and any light coming from the city, just the ear that's in the city causes a situation of unrest, and we can't reach the madrigas that we used to reach. And with all the nisyonos that the Eibishter created in today's day and age, somebody, as hard as somebody tries to hold himself pure and dedicated to the Eibishter, he's bombarded with challenges day after day. It's very hard to reach the madrigas that the Hasidim in the olden times were able to reach. And what's the Rebbe's view on us in this situation? So what does that mean for us? That we're losers, we're nobodies, we can't reach any madriga? The Rebbe in his Torah time and again shows us that no, that davka us, because we are so connected to Maisa, to action, to just doing what the Eibishter wants without necessarily being caught up in the madrigas, that's where we can reveal the essence of the Eibishter. The Rebbe says a sicha about the Levana, right? So the Yidden are compared to the Levana, and the moon has its cycles. In the beginning of the month, the moon is getting bigger, and brighter, and brings more light to the world. And in the second half of the month, the moon gets smaller and it brings less light until to the point where you cannot see the moon anymore. And traditionally in Yiddishkeit, the second half of the month was considered not such a good time, because the moon, which the Yidden are compared to, is getting less, and it's not such a good time. And that's why people didn't make chasanas in the second half of the month. The Rebbe in the Nalafon and Beis, the Rebbe said a sicha that turned the whole story on its head. The Rebbe said, wait a second, think about it. What's going on with the sun? Yeah, with the moon. You have the sun, then you have the earth, so we're in the middle, and then you have the moon. The moon goes around, it circles around. And as it's circling, it's getting closer to the sun and further away from the sun, closer and further. When the moon is at the furthest point from the sun, which is the source of its light, so it's over here, the sun is over here, the moon is over here, the sunlight comes, it hits the moon, it reflects back on earth. So we see a full moon. And in Giluyim, in expressions, now the moon is expressing the sun to the highest level, because it's reflecting the sunlight over its entire half that's visible to the earth. However, when the moon gets closer to the sun, so it's getting closer to the source of its light is getting less. It seems to be a situation where the moon is being diminished. But the Rebbe is megala that the proper way to look at it is that in the second half of the month, the moon is getting closer and closer to the sun. So the Rebbe says this is actually much higher than the first half of the month. This way of thinking, and it is a point that runs through so much of the Rebbe's Torah. Why? Because now we're getting close to the time of Mashiach. In the time of Mashiach, we have to reveal the essence of the Eibishter. Is the essence to reveal the essence of the Eibishter here in this world. And that's why in this Maimer, Ulei Shleimar is one of the reasons why, after explaining to us over 9-10 sifim, the Rebbe explains to us the tremendous maila of a person who's reached the level where he serves the Eibishter with his full ratzon, his only interest, his full dedication, his passion. He knows of nothing else, only the Eibishter. The Rebbe stops and says, hold on, but there's something higher. There's something that touches the Eibishter to his essence, and it reveals the essence of the Yid soul. And that is what? That's when the ratzon gets brought down into action. When the ratzon affects my mind, my understanding, and my understanding affect my emotions, and then my emotions lead to thought, speech, and action, now I'm connected to the essence of the Eibishter, and I reveal the essence of my soul. And that's what the Rebbe said in Yud Aleph, completely changing the story of the Maimer. It's as if the beginning of the Maimer was to tell us what Ratzon is all about, so that we could pull a little bit of it into action, but the main thing is action. And in Sif Yud Beis, the Rebbe said that who's the one who brings about this idea of Pnimius? So the Rebbe said it's the leader of the generation. It's the Roya, it's the shepherd. The Rebbe brought down from David HaMelech that after the Eibishter brings down all of the Hamshachs into the world, that the Eibishter brings back all of the Giluyim in the world. Yerushalayim is built, the whole land of Yehuda is built, and the Yidden are settled back over there. But B'Pnimius, where's the Raya, the shepherd, the one who brings everything into a Pnimius? That's the task of a Rebbe, of David HaMelech, of a Roya, of a Rebbe, to take these Giluyim of the Eibishter and to bring them down into a Pnimius. That's a task of a Rebbe. What does this all mean to our Aveda, to our day-to-day Aveda, which is, of course, in addition to the Haskalah of Chassidus, the Loyad Medrash Iker El HaMaisa, how does that affect the way we think of ourselves and the way we go about serving the Eibishter? So that's what Sif Yud Gimel is all about. So let's see. According to everything we explained earlier in the Maimir, we can explain the connection and relationship between the Yidden choosing the Eibishter and the Eibishter choosing the Yidden. This that the Eibishter chose the Yidden to be his treasured nation, which means, in other words, that the Eibishter's pnimius haratzin, what does he really want? He wants the Yidden. They're not a means to something else. He doesn't want them so he could get something else. No, he wants the Yidden himself. That's what he's interested in. So this fact, that's what makes it possible and empowers the Yidden to choose the Eibishter. Kanal Baruch, as was discussed earlier in Sif Yud in the Maimer, this that the Yidden choose the Eibishter, it's because their shayrish, their sources in the Pnimius Haratzin of the Eibishter. In other words, it's not like, for example, when two people get married. So you say that the husband chooses the wife, and the wife chooses the husband. There's two choices that were made over here. It's not that one choice is dependent on the other. It's self-understood that if the husband wouldn't choose the wife or the wife wouldn't choose the husband, then the other one wouldn't choose the other. So you need that both of them should make the choice. Otherwise, I'm not interested in making the choice. But the choice came from each one of them independently. There's two choices that were made over here. In the story of the Eibishter choosing the Yidden and the Yidden choosing the Eibishter, they're not two separate choices. It's one thing. It's a cause and an effect. Because the Eibishter chose the Yidden to be his nation, in other words, he placed his Pnimius Haratzin. This is what he wants. He wants the Yidden, so he placed his Pnimius Haratzin in the Yidden. Therefore, now the Yidden are able to connect to that Pnimius and to choose the Eibishter. And the Rebbe says, this that we mentioned in the beginning of the Maimer, that the choice of the Eibishter and the Yidden is actually primarily in the body of the Yidden, in the physical body of the Yidden. This gives the Yidden the ability and the power that even in the physical aspects of their life, not only in the shul, not only in their Torah, not only in their mitzvahs, but even in the physical aspects of their life, in their vacation and in their business and in their material life, that over there also should be revealed the Pnimis Haratzin of the Eibishter, which through this is felt in them, that also their physical parts of their life is also to serve the Eibishter. And according to this, and according to this, we could also answer the question that we had all the way in the beginning of the Maimer, that Asher brought his karbanis to commemorate what? And to express which idea? That the Eibishter chose the Yidden, but this l'chura isn't the right, this isn't the main point. The Medrash said that the main praiseworthiness of the Yidden is this, that they chose the Eibishter, not that the Eibishter chose them. What's the praise of the Yidden? Not that the Eibishter chose them. The praise of the Yidden is that they chose the Eibishter. The Rebbe teaches, the main Maila of the Yidden, it's not because they're holy, because the Eibishter chose them and made them holy. Not that is the main Maila of the Yidden, not that is what the Eibishter is primarily interested in. The main Maila of the Yidden is those things that the Yidden accomplishes in serving the Eibishter on his own, not the holiness. And through the neshama is given from the Eibishter. The accomplishment in Avodas Hashem is done through the physical body down here in the physical world. Ubezeh davke. And davke in this, that a Yid down here in this world accomplishes and brings about through his service to the Eibishter, that's where the main pleasure and nachas of the Eibishter comes. Not from the fact that the Yid has a holy neshama. Of course, it's very tired to the Eibishter. The Eibishter himself put a chelik lekam mal mamish in the Yidden. But that's not the main Maila of a Yid, and it's not the main nachas roch of a Yid. The main mile of a Yid and the main nachas ruach that the Eibishter has of a Yid is when he goes and he works and he does his Torah and mitzvahs. He comes to his office, he puts a few coins in the pushka. He's having a business conversation with somebody, so he mentions the Eibishter, or if it's with a Yid, he discusses shiurim and Torah, learning Torah, and all of the other things that he does. He hears about a person who Nabach needs help, is not feeling well, he goes and does Bikr Chelim, v'chulu v'chulu. A chasen kala needs help with a chasen, he goes and helps them. In all of these things, that's where the main mile of a Yid is, and that's where the Eibishter's nachas ruach is primarily expressed. And that's, so l'chura, the question just got even stronger. So Asher sort of brought his karbanos to commemorate that. Why did it bring his karbanos to commemorate the choice of the Eibishter and the Yidden? So the explanation is, in order that the Yidden should have the ability to do this, it's through revealing the Eibishter's choice in the Yidden, like we said in the beginning of Yud Gimel, that a Yid can choose the Eibishter is because the Eibishter chose him. It's the fact that the Eibishter chose him is what gives him the power to connect himself and dedicate himself and choose the Eibishter. And to reveal this, Asher brought his karbanos. In addition to the power that every single Yid has, because he's rooted in the Pnimis Haratzon of the Eibishter, by Asher bringing these karbanos, this koach was revealed in a greater extent, to a greater degree, and became more accessible and available to the Yid to work with. The Shleiman the Rebbe says that not only Asher did it, but even more than that, through this, that the Alter Rebbe said these words, that he wants only the Eibishter. So a Nasi Shabi Yisrael said these words, and then it was publicized through another Nasi Shabi Yisrael, the Tzemach Tzedek. So through this Nitin HaKayach, we get the Kayach from the Tzemach Tzedek, from the Alter Rebbe, and like the Rebbe mentioned in Yud Beis, from the Rebbe of each generation, from the Roya Yisrael, we get the Kayach Eid Yisrael Kolachad Vechad Yisrael for every single Yid. And especially, even more so to those who follow in his ways and in his footsteps, even though he's a Yid who has Ribu Ritzainus. And over there is talking about holy Ritzainus. He wants Gan Eden, he wants Elam Haba, he wants to see the Eibishter, he wants to see the excitement, he wants to go to the Beis HaMikdash. He has a lot of Ritzainus. And even more, he's not even on that madrega. Not talking anymore about the Beis HaMikdash and Gan Eden. He has Ribu Ritzainus that come inside the Nefesh Ba'amis. He wants good food, and he wants to have a nice vacation, and he wants to have nice furniture and a comfortable car. He has all of these Ritzainus, all of these wants that he's interested in, that Pasha come from his Nefesh Ba'amis. This is the madrega that the person is at. In other words, Yekataichi is a person who's living from our generation. He's not a person from the previous generation, where his Ratzon was fully and exclusively to the Eibishter. This is us. The Rebbe is talking to us. Nevertheless, it's possible for a Yid to reach the Madrega Shekol HaRitzainus Shelayu B'lei Leiv V'leiv, that all of his Ritzainus, all of these things that he wants in this world should be without a heart, without a passion. In other words, the person says to himself, we'll read just a little more, his primary ratzon will be to fulfill the kavanah of the atzmus, to make for the Eibishter a dira b'tachtenim, al derech u'mein shahaya it's lat me'azak, and similar to what was by the Alter Rebbe Shalei Ratzon me'nit as dich alein, that he wanted only the Eibishter alone. In other words, a Yid says to himself, it's true that I know that once a week I have to go to a restaurant, and I have to relax. And up in the summer, I have to go and take a vacation. And over here, and if I drive an uncomfortable car, I won't be in a good mental state. I have all of these things that I'm interested in. And I want to have a nice house, all of these things. However, this is not me. This is not what defines me. This is not what I'm proud of. These are things that come from the lower aspects of my being. It comes from the Gashmis. It comes from the Nefesh Ba'amis. And instead of having a koch in it, instead of this being what I'm all about, it's merely something that I need. I need to eat to keep soul and body together. So also all of these ritzanos that I have, these are things that I need because unfortunately I didn't reach the madrega yet of a high of a high chassid. So I have all of these things there, but it's not me. What's me? What do I want? I want to make a diddle tachtenu, and that's the reason why I have all the gashmis. And even his desire in Gashmias, he gave up on himself, at least momentarily. He says, I'm going to have a Ratzon in Gashmias. I haven't reached that Madrega yet. But the Iker Ratzin is not going to be for the Gashmias. It's going to be only to make a keli for Likus, to bring the Eibishter down into this world. In other words, to explain it simply, what the Rebbe is saying over here is that you want to have a cake. You're not in the Madrega of Epis Hillel Parsha that you don't want to have a cake. You want to have a cake? Okay, you're going to have the cake. It's not asar pishochnach. You're going to have the cake. But why not have the cake and the Eibishter also? Have the cake and eat the cake and say to yourself, by eating this cake, I'm making a bracha on it. And it giving me energy. Now I could serve the Eibishter with the energy that I got from the cake. And I made a bracha on it, and then a bracha achareina. That's the main reason why I'm eating the cake. So I have my cake, and I'm serving the Eibishter with the cake also. If I was on a higher madrega, I would not want the cake. We finish or? Valideze, the Rebbe says, through this, when a Yid takes this approach, that even though he's in a jungle of Retzenis Zarim from the Nefesh Habahamis, he can't find his way out. He can't become a Baal Madrega. But nevertheless, through the power that the Rebbe gives him, he turns his mind to understand that all of this Gashmis is only to serve the Eibishter. So now the whole purpose of his Gashmis is the Eibishter. So he can have a lot of Gashmis. Gashmis is no longer a steer to the Eibishter. We'll see as the Eibishter get in Gashmis, when he didn't machen from the Gashmis Ruchnias. The Alter Rebbe said that when the Eibishter gives you the Gashmis, they make from it Ruchnias. And like Moshe just said, even better. The more the better. The Mizem moving the Kashakash Nation so Riboy Gashmis. If the Eibishter will give the Yidden a ton of Gashmias, a massive amount of Gashmias, now we can make a massive amount of Ruchnias. Riboy becomes sai qualitatively, Riboy be'echas and sai quantitatively. And this Aveda will lead to the ultimate completion. Yisrael, and the Rebbe puts in parentheses because we reveal the connection between the Yidden and the Eibishter directly. All of this is done with a joyous heart and a happy heart. In the days leading up and preparing for Pesach, this will also bring B'Peil Mamish, the time of our redemption, of our freedom. May it be B'Karev Mamish today. All right, next one.